the Sci-Fi Air Show, promoting and preserving our rich sci-fi heritage. Of all the many ships on display here at the Sci-Fi Air Show, the one that reigns supreme as the crowd favorite is right here. The Jupiter 2. What is it about this spaceship from Lost in Space that has captured the hearts of so many people? Let's explore the history of this amazing ship to find the answer. For centuries, there have been recorded sightings of strange floating disks in the sky, but it wasn't until 1947 that the term flying saucer was coined. At that time, right after the end of the Second World War, photographs of unidentified flying objects taken by average citizens began to appear, and the idea of flying saucers became a part of American pop culture. Being oddly shaped and possessing no visible control surfaces, the flying saucers were thought to be the product of an advanced alien race. As depicted in comic books and films from that era, man fought against the inhabitants of these odd ships who seemed intent on conquering the world or stealing our women. In 1956, Forbidden Planet was released. In this landmark film, human beings were shown exploring the galaxy in their very own flying saucer. The innovative C-57D had a rotating engine light on its underside, 3 retractable landing gear, deceleration tubes, and a centralized control center surrounded by a glass bubble that held a miniature version of the ship. These features are the common DNA that show the ancestry between the C-57D and the Jupiter 2. Another ship that has links to the Jupiter's design was the Proteus, a submarine seen in the film Fantastic Voyage. Designed and built right before the Jupiter 2, many of its exterior and interior construction details would influence the next vehicle that was on its way to the launch pad. Lost in Space was first aired on September 15, 1965. The centerpiece of the show, the Jupiter 2 spacecraft, was unique for 2 reasons. The first was that it was to be manned not by astronauts, but by a family of space pioneers. The second was that it was a flying saucer. The comfortable and clean design of the Jupiter 2 was light years beyond the cramped and tubular NASA spacecraft of the day. It blended the flying saucer mystique with the nuts and bolts practicality of real spaceflight and exploration. This unique combination of the practical and fanciful created a one-of-a-kind vehicle that was a thrilling ticket to adventure. Throughout the 3 years of the production of Lost in Space, there were many versions of the ship that were used, each with its own unique proportions and features. For the original pilot, the ship was called the Gemini 12 and had only a single deck that fit neatly inside the hull. When the show went into production, the ship was renamed the Jupiter 2 and was modified to appear as if it had room for an added lower deck. The miniature version of the ship was 4 feet in diameter and had a graceful curve to the upper hull. This was the most commonly seen full version of the ship featured on the series. A spectacular, full-sized version of the ship was also built that was more angular than the miniature. Over on the soundstage, the interior set's hull had a much steeper angle and was modified over the seasons, making the set easier to light and shoot. The interior of the ship also evolved as the concept of the ship changed from one that was automatically flown by a computer to one that was piloted by the crew. This full-size version we have here at the air show is the most complete surviving example of the Jupiter 2. Although only seen rarely in the TV show, this version of the ship has survived the decades to the delight of its many fans.
This ship just represents everything that I wanted to do as a kid. If you were going to travel into space, this is how you'd want to go.
This was built in a time before everything was done with CAD and computers and everything. It was done with slide rules or people doing technical illustration or building models to figure out how this is going to work. And to put this whole thing together and make it operational, I mean, what an achievement.
My dad, he used to watch the show on TV all the time, and he would staple 2 paper plates together and make his own model of the ship and fly it all around the house.
I heard the reason that they never made a model kit of the Jupiter 2 is because it was deemed too simple. But what's interesting is I find it's the ship's simplicity that makes it so appealing.
It really was interesting how they were completely dependent upon that ship to survive, that and their wits, to kind of make it in this. Basically, it's kind of like the frontier. It's kind of like a covered wagon, and the horses have gotten away and run off and left them. So they're dependent on what they've got in this thing to stay alive.
This is everybody's favorite ship. My mom's favorite, my dad's favorite. Everyone is jealous that I get to work on this ship.
Yeah, I like it. It's nice and all, but being from the UK, I really like the Eagle. That's the ship right there. But they have a lot in common. I mean, they crash a lot.
This thing's kind of like a big space camper. I mean, they take it and they crash land on this planet, but they've got everything they need. They've got the chariots so they can drive around. They've got the space pods so they can fly around. They've got the jetpack, all the different machines for making the food, or the force field, or the robot. I mean, it was a kid's dream. It's like a playset full size.
I think she's so popular because everyone can identify with some part of it. The design is just so amazing, and you can recognize different parts, and that's what makes it so beautiful. Everyone has something in there that their favorite part.
What I like most about this ship? The photon antenna. You get all the Saints games. Go!
For whatever the reason, the Jupiter 2 continues to dazzle and amaze crowds. In the many years since the Jupiter 2 was launched, spaceship design has gotten more advanced, but it hasn't gotten any better.
No matter what the galaxy threw at them, they always had a safe place, a safe haven to call home. The Jupiter 2.